What is going on, buddy? Welcome back to All Things Film. Today I'm here to do my review of The Walking Dead Season 9 Episode 2 titled The Bridge. I really did like this episode and I'm very excited to talk about it. So before I do begin, all I gotta say is a spoiler warning in case you haven't seen the episode. But other than that, let's get started. So I loved how this whole episode was basically Rick telling Negan what happened during this day. And a lot of crazy stuff happened in this day. So let's start off in the beginning. And I love the opening minutes when everybody was just talking to each other, when Eugene and Rick were talking, and then Rick and Rosita, which we haven't seen those two talk in I don't know how long, maybe never actually. It's been a while, so it was pretty cool to see them talk. And then when he went to the little tent and he told Sadiq to go back for help, and I just loved how everybody was coming together and talking, and it really reminded me of like the days back in season 2 and during the farm. And I liked this farm season, it had great character development, and I love it when we see our characters just interacting about how to survive and what's next for them. So I really did like these opening minutes. But the title of this episode was The Bridge, and that's what they were working on. And I did like the beginning when Henry went up to go, was offering all the saviors drinks and stuff, and then Justin was a dickhead and he kind of took it from him, and then Henry knocked him on his ass. I did like that. And I also liked how Jed, the other savior, came up. Jed and Justin, those two saviors are like the troublemakers this season, and I liked how Jed kind of mocked and teased Justin, saying, yeah, I got knocked on my ass too by a kid when I was 6. I did like that because just from that line, like, we know that guy is a douchebag, just like the way he was teasing him and just the way he carried himself. And a lot of that has to do with the actor. I think he's doing a good job. And both these actors, I think it's Zach McGowan who's playing Justin, and Reese Cairo, I don't know how I say his last name, he's playing Jed. They're both really good actors, so they're probably the biggest saviors this season, and I'm excited to see more of them. But we saw what happened to Justin at the end, and I want to talk more about that. So we might not have that much Justin anymore because there's somebody out there taking out the saviors. Now we don't know exactly who it is, and I did like the little build up to that, how they kind of mentioned it in conversations, like Al said it to Rick, and then Maggie said the ethanol never got to them, so we knew something was coming, and that was the ending I thought was great. But when Justin saw the person, he noticed them, like he kind of knew who they were because he put his weapon down and said, oh, you could have gotten yourself killed. So it's somebody we know, I'm assuming, so I don't think it's gonna be the Whispers or anything, because if it was somebody he didn't know or he didn't recognize, he would have been like, who are you? I think that's what the most common thing you say is if you run into somebody you don't know. So just the way his body language after he saw the person, it kind of tells me that he knew who it was. So my best guess is Daryl, but I feel like that's too obvious, and a lot of people think it might be Daryl, so who knows who it could be. We're gonna have to wait and see. But Daryl doesn't like the savior, so the clear answer is Daryl. But again, like I said, it might be too obvious. It could be Henry, but Henry was a little short. Henry's short, so the way it was positioned, it looked like it was around the same height. Maybe they're gonna throw us a curveball and it's gonna be Carol or somebody. I don't know. But the clear answer is Daryl. But in the comments down below, you guys comment who you think is taking out these saviors. Something else that I loved about this episode was the Tammy and Earl stuff. I'm loving these two characters. They are a great addition to season 9, especially Tammy, and I think a lot of that has to do with Brett Butler. She is so fun to watch, and she's doing so much with this character, and I can't get enough of it. I want more of her and more of Earl, and I'm so entertained by this season. And I loved the conversation she had with Earl, and just watching these two characters on screen it's so entertaining. But I loved how Earl got to Maggie. I did like that because Earl had a nice conversation with Maggie and talked about how he was a drinker, and as we know, Herschel was a drinker too, but Herschel was overall a really good man. So at the end of the episode, that got to Maggie and led her to have a change of heart, which I found very nice. And moments like that is what's making this season great. Characters having grounded conversations and they get to one another, and what the words affect one another, and that's what leads them to do their decisions. I love stuff like that, and we're getting a lot of that in these 2 episodes. So I absolutely love the Hilltop stuff we're getting this season. And speaking of the Hilltop, we also got a Georgie mention, which I found very interesting because they're still in connection, we know that, and I'm pretty sure Georgie is connected to Commonwealth. I don't know what else she would be connected to, but regardless, it's a huge group. And I also feel like she's going to be connected to the helicopter. And we saw the helicopter this season also, this episode because it was really high up, the helicopter, and only Jadis kind of noticed it because she was elevated on that machine thing. So what that tells me is that she's kind of Georgie or whatever this helicopter helicopter group is. I'm assuming Georgie and the helicopter are the same group, because I don't know if they would introduce 2 random groups, like 3 actually, because we're getting the whispers too. So I feel like they are connected to the same group. But yeah, I feel like they're watching our group because they were even watching the Hilltop, and we found that out last season. Because last season when she first met Maggie, she said that they've been watching the Hilltop and they're impressed with the Hilltop. That's why they kind of approached them. So this group, they're very high tech, so they're gonna be watching people and they're familiar with a lot of people. So that's what makes me believe that they're just kind of scouting out this area and all these people and thinking who to recruit. So I'm very interested in this story. Maybe it could be related to Rick Grimes' exit too. Who knows? We know it's definitely going to be related to Maggie's, I feel, at least, because Jesus was talking to her about recruiting, and Jesus asked her, like, are you thinking about going there? So I definitely think this group is going to be related in some way to Rick or Maggie's, or both their exits. But let's talk about the huge thing in this episode, and that was obviously the herd and the chaos and Aaron getting his arm chopped off or amputated because it got crushed by the log. And man, this scene was absolutely awesome. It was so intense and the build-up was perfect. It wasn't just a random herd that came like we usually see. It was actually being built up, and we kind of saw it coming, from Tara looking at them through the binoculars, talking to Rick about it, and it was very intense, and it made it so much more better. And yeah, I feel bad for Aaron, man. That arm, that was very gruesome, and a great job by them. I liked how they actually showed it, and they weren't trying to be like trying to hide it or anything. I did like how they showed it, and it was very gruesome. And Aaron is looking like comic book Rick, and if you read the comics, you know what I'm talking about. Now even with the arm, he's looking even more comic book Rick, so that's very interesting. I just found the connection between comic book Rick and TV show Aaron very similar, so it is pretty interesting. I don't think it's gonna be a big deal or anything, but anyways, like I said, I love the whole build up during this scene, especially even after what happened to Aaron, him getting his arm amputated, with Daryl beating up Justin. But going back to Aaron, I love what they're doing with Enid too, because Enid and Aaron do have a connection. They spent a lot of time last season together. But Enid, I like how they're training her to be a doctor, because we haven't seen that before in The Walking Dead, and they need doctors in The Walking Dead. So I did like it. I kind of find it a little funny how she was amputating the arm and she was reading the book at the same time. That was a little funny, but I do like what they're doing with her character, and teaching her to be a doctor, and they should definitely do that with more characters. But going back to Daryl, so I loved how when Aaron got his arm amputated, Daryl went to go see who messed up with the herd, and I love how the camera was following him and it zoomed in on his face and we saw the anger in his eyes. It really added to the intensity of that scene, and stuff like that is what makes this season so great, and this makes this episode so great, because we've seen herds before coming in and messing things up and people have to fight the herd, but the way they executed this episode was just so good, and I was so pleased with it. But yeah, that was when Daryl went to go beat the shit out of Justin, and they hit him with a pot, which I thought was brilliant. I did love that scene, and nobody likes Justin at all, not even Rick. And I wrote this down while I was watching the episode, because I loved the Rick moment when he went up to Justin and just completely shut him down. The first thing I liked about this moment was it kind of reminded me of the old Rick Grimes, when he just completely shit on somebody by just going up to their face and just tearing them apart. Like, we haven't had that in a while, so I did like that. And we also saw the fear in Justin, which was great, because Justin was fed up with everything. He said, no, fuck this, I'm going home, I'm not dealing with this, I'm not even gonna wait till the morning, I'm leaving right now. And we saw what happened when he did that, but then Rick was like, no, you're gonna listen to what I gotta say. And then Justin didn't even move after that, so I did like that. And I also liked how he brought up his old past, talking about him being a cop and him running into douchebags like that. I thought that was a really good scene, and we haven't had one of those moments in a while, so that was very enjoyable to watch. A couple more things I want to talk about before I wrap up, one of them being the Rick and Daryl moment at the tent. I love that scene, and they're definitely building up to something huge. And Norman Reedus said that Daryl and Rick have an epic scene in episode 4, so I think it might be like a brawl or something. I'm not gonna be surprised if these two duke it out. I mean, I don't want to see these two duke it out. Like, as much as I love seeing intense scenes and violence and stuff in The Walking Dead, I don't want to see my brothers fight, but it probably is gonna happen. We're gonna have to wait and see. But yeah, they're definitely building up to something here, and I love, we haven't had Rick and Daryl moments in a while. We got a good one last episode and now in this episode, and I love how Daryl's more vocal. Like, such great scenes, and I'm just super happy with this season. I also want to talk about Gabe Gabe and Anne, because now they're a couple. I saw this coming because they spent a lot of time together on the trailers and promos we got, so I did see this coming. It wasn't that surprising to me. I did like the scene though when they were sitting outside and just talking about their past in the dark. I did like that. Very soft, easygoing scene, and I did really like that. But something that I'm a little mixed on is why is Gabe super obsessed about the, not obsessed, but like he's still really thinking about this woman that worked at his church. Like I get like they were friends and stuff, and he even made Anne draw the picture of the woman. So I don't know. I feel like it's a little overboard. I feel like he would be like over it by now. I don't know. It's not a big deal or anything, but that was a little weird how he's still thinking about her. But anyways, I do like this couple. It's also interesting how both their backgrounds are kind of the same. Like they both had a tough time joining Rick's group. So I did see this coming. I think it's gonna go a long way, and also. Like I said, they're building up relationships this season. So we know the Whisperers are coming in, so they're gonna take out a ton of people. So I wouldn't be surprised if you get relationships a lot during this first half. But yeah, other than that, I'm pretty sure I covered everything. I also want to talk about the Rick and Negan scene, which I'll do in just a second. But yeah, so Rick was telling Negan, the whole day, and that's basically what the episode was. And I love this final moment, and I love Rick and Negan scenes like during the past 2 years because both the actors are the best actors in the show, so their scenes are always enjoyable and fun to watch. And I also liked how Negan mentioned Carl, and we saw how pissed off Rick got from that. And there is a lot of intensity there, and Rick, Negan is still getting in Rick's head, so it's gonna be very interesting to see more scenes between them throughout the rest of the first half. But I did like they're giving us the perfect amount of Negan, I believe, because we just came off of 2 years of Negan, season 7 and 8. So I like how they're not giving us that much Negan because they know they need to focus on other characters, and I like how they're doing that. They're not giving us that much Negan, and they're giving us just a perfect amount of Negan because there is a shit ton of characters in The Walking Dead. So I do think they're doing a great job of balancing the characters this season. I think I'm getting enough of all of them. Maybe a little more Rosita, maybe a little more Sadiq, but other than that, I feel like they're doing a pretty good job with the characters, and there's a lot of characters, so it's a lot on the writers to make sure each character gets utilized. So I think they're doing a pretty good job with that, and yeah, pretty much I did love this episode. I even think it's better than the premiere, and that's great news because if the episodes are getting better per episode, that's gonna be amazing. But yeah, I am gonna wrap it up there, and I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below, your thoughts and your reviews of the episode. Be sure to stay tuned for my predictions video that'll be up later today, and then also my breakdowns of sneak peeks and stuff, so stay tuned for those videos. But yeah, I am gonna wrap it up there. Hope you guys did enjoy the video. Thank you guys for all the support on these videos, and for daily Walking Dead videos, be sure to subscribe. It's been All Things Film, and until next time, peace.